Hello, this is awkward. So I am here. I'm going to start a new YouTube channel. At least I want to. We'll see how it goes. But for now, I'm going to tell you all the books that I read in January. Now, I have 3 physical books in front of me. I listened to 2 audiobooks, and I actually read 5 physical books and 2 audiobooks this past month, which is 7 books total, which is probably by far the most I've ever read in 1 month. So I'm going to go ahead and start. The first book that I read, I don't have because it's an audiobook. It was I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. I'm going to pull up my Goodreads, mainly just because it shows me all the books that I read in order. So this was the first book of the year that I read or listened to, however you want to say it. I still count it. If you don't know what it is, it's basically one woman's desire to find who the Golden State Killer was. I don't really read or listen to a lot of nonfiction, but this book was absolutely phenomenal. It actually, she never finished the book. She actually passed away before she did it, before she actually finished it. So her husband, who is the actor Patton Oswalt, actually went through and finished it for her, using her diary and excerpts that she had written previously through notes and stuff like that. I gave it 4.5 stars, something like that. I'll link my Goodreads so you guys have it. But it's probably the best nonfiction true crime book that I've ever read, and like I said, I don't read a lot of them. The next one I actually started over Christmas, and I finished it in January, and I'm actually glad that I did. And this book is phenomenal. It's Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I was hesitant because I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, but I heard like really good things about this book. So I went ahead and dove in, and I'll tell you what, it blew my mind. It was super fast paced. It was intriguing. The premise behind it, all that stuff. It was just something that it was unputdownable, if you want to use that as a word. Gave that 5 stars. Like, I'm really ready to read Recursion. I don't want to read it right now, not this month, not in February, but I will read it eventually. So keeping on the same theme, I'm more like a thriller. I'm kind of I'll do what I want, I'll read what I want kind of stuff. I don't really have TBRs or anything like that. But the next book that I read, it was for Book of Month pick from December of 2019. So I've had this book for a while, and it was The Wives by Tarryn Fisher. First Tarryn Fisher book that I've ever read, and I know that before she wrote this one, she was more of like a romance kind of writer. But I'm glad I read this. I gave it like a 3.5, 4 stars, and I think the reason why is because, what did I say? I said something in my Goodreads that it was something like, yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. Writing fast, but the narrator is unreliable and confusing. I'm not a huge fan of unreliable, but I like it from time to time. It's weird. The main character, the name of the main character was confusing at the beginning. And if you read the book, you kind of understand the reason why. I don't know, but I enjoyed the book. I want to read her other one, The Wrong Family, I believe it's called. And I do want to read it. Trust me, I do. And I will get around to it eventually. But I've been more on a fantasy kick here, which you'll see in a few minutes. But the next book that I read, I actually read it because I wanted to catch what the drift was from the show, if you haven't seen it, called Big Sky on ABC. I actually watched the first couple episodes when I was at my parents' house during Christmas, over Christmas break. And I really enjoyed the show. I absolutely loved the show. I thought it was fantastic. So I didn't know that it was based off a book. I looked it up, found that it was based off a book. So I went ahead and I went on Amazon and I bought the book. So I bought the book. It's called The Highway by C.J. Box. I don't have the physical book because I actually read it and then I handed it off to my father. But what I do have is 2 of the other books in that series. which is called the Highway series. Now he has a lot of novels, mostly the Joe Pickett novels, but this is the first one in the Highway series. Basically, it follows one of the main characters in the show. That if you watch the show, you'll understand. But I don't want to give these away too much. But the Highway, it was about these two girls going on a road trip. They were supposed to go see their father. They're from Colorado. They were supposed to go see their father, and things happened. Again, I don't want to give too much away, because if I give too much away, then like it's not good. But believe you me, I don't think I've ever read a more gripping book from an author I've never heard of before. I read it in a span of like maybe 2 days, like 2 actual sittings in my little nook that you see here. Hello. So I read it in like 2 days. Absolutely loved it. I will swear eventually, so don't mind that. But it was fantastic, and I want to read those other 2 books in the Highway series, and eventually, maybe along the lines, get more of his stuff. But yeah, highly recommend that one. I gave that one 4.5 stars. I think I actually gave it. I think it was more like 4 stars, mainly because that was like 4.25 stars. Reason is because it was very demoralizing towards females. Now, I get it. I understand why writers write the way they write, like Stephen King. A lot of people think, oh, well, he writes very vulgar. But that's just who he is. Like, you got to remember where Stephen King grew up, the time that he grew up, vulgarity towards women, demoralization towards women. Like, it happened. Like, most of his books were written in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. So he's going to have that very vulgar language. And I think someone is C.J. Box, where that novel came out in the later 2000s, it still seemed like he didn't know how to write a female character. So, but it was still a fantastic book, fast-paced, and like I said, I want to read the rest. Now the next book, it's totally out of the wheelhouse. Again, I got it as a Christmas present from someone I work with. Like, back in my younger days, I used to read quite a bit of his stuff, but it's actually Nicholas Sparks' The Return. Yes, I know it's a romance-ish, I guess, but this one was more of, I think I like this one more than I like some of his other stuff, because it was more of like a mystery over the romance side. Now, there was still heavy romance in it, don't get me wrong, because that's how Nicholas Sparks is, but there was a lot of mystery elements into this book. So I gave it, I believe I gave it a 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 stars out of 5 on Goodreads. It was very fast paced. Again, I read it in like a day. I have days off where most of the time all I want to do is just sit right here, or I sit out on my porch and just read. And that day just happened to be one of them. I hadn't read a Nicholas Sparks book since like Nights in Rodanthe, like 15 years ago. So it was very good. I loved it. Thought it was fantastic. Basically, it's about this grandson. His grandfather passed away. He moves back to this small town, starts fixing up the house, meets this deputy or sheriff or whatever she may be. She's a local cop. They kind of hit it off. They start talking, and then romance ensues there. And there's just a lot to it, and it's very good. Pretty fast paced for Nicholas Sparks novel. So yeah, I liked it. I have some more of his stuff on ebook that I kind of want to give a try, but I mean that's Nicholas Sparks. So The Return, yeah, I would suggest that. And if you see me kind of like fooling with my shirt and stuff, I've lost a lot of weight. We'll talk about that later. The next book that I listened to, I want to say listened to because I didn't really read it. I was listening to it. I listen to an audiobook whenever I go visit my parents. They live about an hour and a half away. And I listen to the audiobooks at like 1.8 or 2.0 speed on Scribd. So I'll jump on that. I'll put that in on my car, on my phone, and I'll just listen to it. So I can get through about half a book, depending on the length of the book. If it's like a 800-page novel, obviously it's not going to take that. It's going to take a lot longer than two or three sittings. But this one, it was called Lying Next to Me by Greg Olson. It was the first time I ever read or listened to a Greg Olson book. A lot of people like his stuff. Again, this is another author that I heard of, but I've never really delved much into. So I went ahead and I listened to it on audiobook. I did like it. I thought it was good, but it was very, very predictable. And, I posted it on Instagram. And, people were like, well, if you liked it, then maybe you'll like this. And they kind of a couple people gave me a couple of different suggestions. To be honest, I don't really remember what the whole premise of the book is. I think it's more like a wife gets murdered and they think it's the husband, but then they find out there was an affair or something along those lines. So it's called Lying Next to Me. If you guys want to check it out, I gave it a 3.5 stars. It wasn't like a mind-blowing experience for me, but it was fantastic nonetheless. And then the last physical book that I read, I finished on like the last day of January. I think it was like January 30th was when I finished this book. And it's a book that I had been wanting to read and trying to finish for about 3 years. And I read the first one, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I actually have it sitting on my shelf over there. I'd get it, but I don't want to get back up. So I read Six of Crows in 2017, 2018. And then I started this one later on, and this is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. If you don't know what any of the Grishaverse is, then I'm sorry. I'm not a huge, I can't say I'm not a huge fan of fantasy, but I love this. Like, Six of Crows blew my mind in a good way. Not a bad way, in a very, very good way. Six of Crows is about this group of six kids, because these are young adult fantasy books. 6 kids. That's why it's called Six Crows. 6 kids, basically they're like, I think the oldest is maybe 18 years old. They go from, I think, 15 to 18. And they have to, Six of Crows is about a heist. Now, that heist, I can't really give much away. And in Crooked Kingdom, I can't really say much is what's going on in Crooked Kingdom either. But let me just say, like, in my Goodreads for Six of Crows, I said that it was very slow-paced until the end where the action started picking up. And then it was like, you couldn't put it down. You just wanted to keep going and find out what was going on. And then Crooked Kingdom came in and kind of did the same thing. The world was already built in Six of Crows. So all I have to say is, Inej, I do not want to mess with this lady. Inej is probably one of my favorite characters, and then obviously Brecker, Kaz Brecker. And I'm looking forward to seeing the Shadow and Bone Netflix adaptation, but I need to get through Shadow and Bone, the Shadow and Bone trilogy, because my first take in Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse was with Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. That's pretty much what I read in January, and I've already read a book and a half or a book and 3/4 in February. Now I'm starting this later because I kind of had to get up enough gumption to actually film this, because I wasn't sure I was actually going to do this. But those are the books that I read in January. And I'm looking forward to what I read in February. Again, I'm a mood reader. I don't really have TBRs, because, like, as you can see a little bit of my bookshelf here, and I have another bookshelf here. I have a lot of books physically, but I have even more electronically. And I've been getting a lot more into fantasy as of late as well. So I want to continue that trend and read a lot of the backlist titles. So for now, that's my January TBR, and thanks for watching.